Which of my friends is this? President Mandela. And I was like, it sounds like you, so it must be you. And then he said, I'm very upset with you. I'm sorry, what have I done? I thought, no, not even Madiba. And he said, no, he had just seen that my cartoons were not going to be appearing in the particular newspaper, the Cape August, where they had been reprinted for a while from the Sowetan. They were not going to be there because I was moving to the Sunday Times, and there was various reasons. And he was sorry he wouldn't be seeing the cartoons every day when he was in Cape Town. Because he really liked seeing them every day. And I said, you know, obviously I blushed, and I said, I can't believe you picked up the phone and phoned him yourself. But then I said to him, in the 3.5 years since I met you, I met you in 1994, you would have seen, and the reason that I'm even more honored by this call, and I'm amazed that you do, is you would have seen the cartoons becoming increasingly critical of the ANC and of government. And he said, oh, but that is your job. That was Madiba. That was Madiba, unique amongst world leaders in his approach to criticism and satire and cartooning. Absolutely amazing. Thabo Mbeki, I met Thabo Mbeki for the second time when, on the day that Madiba did his last speech to Parliament as president, his last speech as president to Parliament, 1998, and there was a garden party, and I came along because I was not because I was invited personally, but I was invited by a parliamentarian, and I was there and I was meeting everybody, and I met Thabo Mbeki in a small group, about 5 people, 6 people, and I reminded him of the first time I met him. And he smiled and he met me, and as I said, you wouldn't remember the first time. I would never imagine you could remember this, but it was in New York. It was in 1990 when Madiba visited New York for the first time since his release. I was there amongst a group of activists, South African activists, who were trying. We had little cards saying, meeting with the president of the meeting with Nelson Mandela. With Oliver Tambo was still president. A meeting with Nelson Mandela. And we couldn't get into this place where we were meant to meet him because he was tired and he'd been running around, and he was then meeting some more high-powered people. So there was a huge cordon. So I reminded Thabo Mbeki of this, and I said, and then I turned around, and there, trying to get through the cordon, was you. Thabo Mbeki was trying to get through the cordon, and he also couldn't get through the cordon. So I turned to the security guys and I said, look, you know, this is one of the most senior people in the ANC here, you know, and I said, very honored to meet you. And they got on their phones, and suddenly Thabo Mbeki went through, and he turned to us and he said, I'm sorry, comrades, I can't let you through. I can't get you through. Anyway, the smile completely froze, and it just became icy. And I was reminding him of the walking in Madiba's shadow. I was reminding him in front of a few people, and I was testing him. And that was Thabo Mbeki, paranoid, brittle, and walking in Madiba's shadow, and his great talents. He allowed his great talents to be overshadowed by those qualities and by the infighting that he then began. And I think that represented a lot of Thabo Mbeki. Kalema Motlanthe, oh, I just have to say that on the same day, sorry, it's a little interlude, when I had a little puppet with me of Madiba, walked up to him on that day, unannounced with the puppet, again shows Madiba. And I was doing the voice and everything. I had this puppet, life size, walked up, stuck the puppet's hand out, and he looks and he said, oh, I believe I have met this gentleman before. That was Madiba again. Kalema Motlanthe, well, I never met him. He was hardly there. He basically was caretaker president. Jacob Zuma, the first time I encountered him, I said to him from the floor at a press conference, why are you suing me for 15 million rand? Suing a cartoonist. And now he's head of state, and there are 2 lawsuits against me. 2 lawsuits, and there are lawsuits against other media people. It's not just me. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, because as the head of state, to be suing members of the media at the same time as talking about freedom of expression, it's a very strange thing to do. And I keep saying that if there's one way of filling a South African courtroom with the world's media, it would be to actually follow through on that particular lawsuit, because you have to go into the witness box with whichever cartoon he was talking about. Now, a few of them. Notably that one at the end. And he'd have to actually say why he didn't want to be sued and why he didn't want to be drawn in that way and why he's suing me. And I would have to then go into the same witness box and say why I did. So you can imagine. I don't think they're going to do that, but let's see. The last thing I'll say about him is that after the rape case, for which he was acquitted, I started putting a shower on his head. After he made the famous statement that he had had sex with women he knew to be HIV positive, and then he had unprotected sex, and then he had a shower. And why he had the shower? Well, to lessen his chance of HIV infection. This from somebody who had been head of the National AIDS Council when he was deputy president before. So that was an incredibly strange statement, and of course I started putting the shower in. That's one of the things that the ANC and Zuma himself are really unhappy about. Now, it is not because of pressure from them that I then lifted the shower. I've suspended the shower. In the most recent cartoon, the shower is kind of hovering somewhere. It wasn't pressure. It was because I want him to succeed. I've got some ink on my hand here. I've still got that bit of ink on my thumb, which is because I've just recently voted in what is still a very vibrant democracy, and I want it to succeed. I want his government to succeed. The reason I've suspended that shower head is because it kind of gives him a sort of a metaphorical and a physical space. And he can come back down again if he doesn't kind of do that. But anyway, I really hope everything will succeed, and I'm still critical. Of course I am, but I'm part of that very, very vibrant democracy. And again, thank you very much for having me here, and I'll be over there signing some books.
Sorry.
That's what I think I own all of benefits now.
I'll catch you up in a minute.
Due montage, lazy man.